Oh, hey, how's it going, everybody? Today, we're going to learn how to graph a linear equation in slope-intercept form so that we don't actually have to make a table and find a bunch of ordered pairs. We can use the information that is encoded into the equation, the slope and the y-intercept, to make what I like to call a quick graph. And really all it takes is to be able, that is, to identify what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. If you can do that, then you use each of those independently to find the equation's graph. So if you remember, the form is y equals mx plus b. M stands for the slope, and b stands for the y-intercept. In this particular graph, we can see that the y-intercept is positive 4, and the slope is negative 3. So we were talking about the slope the other day, and one of the phrases that we used to describe it was rise over run. So it was really important for that to be the case, that the slope be written as a fraction. Clearly the number negative 3 is not a fraction, but there's an easy way to turn any whole number or integer into a fraction, and that is simply to put it over 1. So to interpret this slope is rise negative 3 and run positive 1. Now, when we were going over mx plus b, I told you that the letter b, which really doesn't make any sense as to why it stands for the y-intercept, but we could think of the word begin. And this is where that really comes into play. The y-intercept is where the graph begins. So the very first thing we do is we find that y-intercept, in this case 4, on the y-axis, and we make a point. That is the start of our graph. So we begin at the y-intercept, and then we can say that we climb the mountain slope. Our slope is negative 3, 1, which, as I said a second ago, means we rise negative 3. And what does that mean, rise negative 3? Isn't rising positive? Well, if that's the case, then rising negative 3 would be going down 3. And running 1 would be going 1 to the right. So I'm going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3, and over 1 to the right, where I create my second point. Now I have literally everything I need to be able to make my graph. So after I have those 2 points, all I got to do, to the best of my ability, is to draw a straight line that goes through both of those points, okay? If you have a ruler, that's going to be really helpful, because a straight line is going to be a lot easier to draw if you have a ruler. And then you really are supposed to put arrowheads on the end to indicate that the pattern continues forever. So that's an actual equation graphed. We didn't have to make the table. We didn't have to choose any ordered pairs. We just found the y-intercept first, and then we climbed the mountain slope, created a second point, which we then connected to make a straight line. I'm going to give you 3 more quick examples. So here's another one, y equals 3/5 x minus 2. So we identify the slope, and we identify the y-intercept. In this case, our slope is 3/5, and our y-intercept is negative 2. So just to show you how quick this can go, we begin at the y-intercept. So since my y-intercept is negative 2, I go to negative 2 on the y-axis, and I make a little point. The slope is 3/5. That means rise 3, run 5. Now I'm going to tell you this. A positive slope is always going to go up and to the right. A negative slope is going to go down and to the right. But notice, they both go to the right. So when you're doing this, the easiest way, positive up and to the right, negative down and to the right. So from this point, I'm going to go up 3 and over 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I create my second point, and now that all that is left is to connect it with a straight line, which is exactly what I've done here. If you recall from the slope dude video, this slope is going uphill, puff, puff, positive. It's hard work. Uphill, positive. That is, we went up and to the right. The previous was downhill. The nice negative, it went down and to the right. This next equation does not seem to fit the pattern, but you could rewrite it like this. Since there's nothing, there's no x, there's no mx, we could think of it like this. 0x plus 3. If you think of it that way, well, then it's clear that this number is the y-intercept, and this number is the slope. I'm having some trouble here. So the slope is 0, and the y-intercept is 3. Slope 0, and the y-intercept is 3. Well, let's think about what that could possibly mean. Just like before, we're going to begin with the y-intercept. So we're going to begin at 3 on the y-axis. Now, the slope is 0. You might recall from the slope dude video also that a slope with 0 is a horizontal line. This is 0 fun. So that means it's just along the same horizontal line. So any point that is on the same horizontal plane would be the next point. And then we simply connect the line, and we've got a horizontal line. Vertical lines are similar. We're not going to do one of those right now, but we will get to them soon. So that is how you do a horizontal line. So I just got one more example. This equation is not in slope-intercept form. A couple days ago, I actually went over a couple of questions with you to see how do you actually put something into slope-intercept form. Well, in order for that to be the case, it actually has to say y equals stuff, or mx plus b. So I got to get the y by itself. That would mean getting rid of the 2x, which leaves me with 3y equals, now I'm going to put the x term first because that's the way it's generally written, negative 2x plus 12. Y is still not by itself. There's a 3 out there. That 3, it's got to go. So I'm going to divide everything by 3, leaving me with y equals negative 2/3 x, because 2 over 3 is 2/3, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So now that I have it in the right form, should be easy to find the slope and y-intercept. So clearly I cleaned it up a little bit. The slope is negative 2/3. The y-intercept is 4. So slope, negative 2/3, y-intercept, 4. Just like every other one, I begin at the y-intercept, and my slope is negative 2/3. So just like I said before, we're always going to go to the right for the run part. But if it's negative, we're going to go down first. So negative 2/3 means rise negative 2, run positive 3. 1, 2, 3. Always to the right. And finally, we connect it with a straight line. Put some arrows on the end, and boom, we are good. This is how you graph equations using slope-intercept form. You have 3 questions to practice now. Good luck.